it's time for another edition of your favorite Packer podcast, the Lockdown Corner podcast. That is, I am your host. This is the second leg of our Lockdown Corner double feature tonight. This is the Lockdown Corner podcast, and where you can find that is Instagram. Now on Instagram at Lockdown Corner Pod, as you can see below if you're watching the stream.
Plug.
Oh, yeah. We're doing plugs tonight before we get into all. We've missed 2 games here, so we got a lot to talk about tonight. YouTube channel, it's popping over there. We got a hype video that you haven't seen. And I know you haven't seen it because the numbers aren't where they were last year when we made a hype video. So go check that out. That's really fun. Speaking of, Dustin, I guess we could do a little nerd corner before we start. Speaking of Logan, because that hype trailer is in the style of the movie Logan, the trailer for that. Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. I'm so happy.
Let's go. I was not expecting that at all. I really was not.
I texted you that because I was in the process of making dinner, and I'm scrolling through Facebook. All of a sudden I see Ryan Reynolds announces Hugh Jackman back. What? I was so happy. Alec, do you have an opinion on Hugh Jackman as Wolverine?
Yeah, it's weird to me that Dustin even knew about this. I mean, the first time that me and him watched Deadpool together, he was just torn apart. He's like, I don't know, this is a little bit too obscene for me. It's not really my style. I like them right down the middle. I don't like all these curveballs and all these what's it has it's and all that, you know.
Big Captain America fan.
He is a huge Cap guy. Yeah. No Cap, huge Cap. But
Huge
anyway,
Cap.
yeah, no, I am excited for this Hugh Jackman news, man. It's going to be a great Deadpool 3.
I will be counting down the days, even though it's not for another 2 years, but I am also jacked. But anyway, side note. So yeah, that's the YouTube channel. Find our hype trailer there. Or hype. Well, I guess it is a hype trailer. And then on Twitter, Alec has taken over our Twitter account and is crushing it at that. That is at Corner Lockdown. You can find us there. And obviously Facebook, but I'm assuming you're watching on Facebook because we're also streaming live on Facebook. All right, enough of all the plugs and promos and stuff. We got some games to talk about, so let's just get into it.
What just happened?
Time to roll back the tape. Here's this week's Game Rewind.
All I want to know if you got your popcorn ready.
I guess we should have did news and notes, but whatever. We'll sprinkle the news and notes in while we go here. Anyway, so we got 2 games to talk about, 2 dubs, which is what I like to say and what I like to hear. First of all, let's talk about the Bears game. The Bears came to town. You two were at this game. They take care of business 27-10, and really outside of one drive, the defense looked pretty dominant. Offense was fine, satisfactory. They probably could have put up more, but I thought that for their first game where they actually were starting to put stuff together, it looked fine. But you two were there, so you two can start on the analysis of this game. How did it look in person?
Well, I'll tell you what, Alex, I had an absolute blast. It may have been because the Packers were dominant. It may have been because I had, 23 beers. But it was absolute electricity factory at Lambeau Field, man. From the flyover in the beginning to the end, it was just an absolute great environment to be in. It really seemed like we were doing whatever we wanted throughout the entire game, both on offense and defense. And yeah, no, it was a great game to be at. Dusty, what are your thoughts on that Bears game?
Oh yeah, I'm right behind you. I definitely had plenty. I didn't tell you guys this, but like when I went to the bathroom, I ended up talking to this guy named Jack for probably like an hour. Not literally, but like it felt like an hour about how we was talking about, like, maybe his name wasn't Jack. We were talking about Jack Collinsworth.
It was Jack
Collinsworth's kid.
Right?
No, yeah, it was. I don't even remember the guy's name. Guy was hilarious, so we just started laughing. So yeah, I wasn't far behind you. I had plenty of the drink, okay? Like, I say it was probably like 18 or 19. I'm not even kidding when I say it was almost 18 or 19. Yeah. It was a great time, though.
Sorry, I forgot that before we started, I have to take, because it's a different broadcast setup, so you can loop these sounds clearly. So my bad on that. Anyway, you had beers, and here's a guy in the rest.
No, he did that too. No, he's like, no, here's a guy. But
well, Al, here's a guy.
Like
It's my best and only Collinsworth. That's all I can say is Collinsworth. Very limited.
Yeah, but I mean, like what you said, Alec. I mean, it kind of seems like we did whatever really we wanted. Like everything seemed to be clicking. Defense was played phenomenal that game. I mean, that was probably like we'll wait till the Tampa Bay game, but I think this defense is legit, like legit defense we have here. Like they are no joke.
Yeah, and really, the Bears game, there was one drive where all of a sudden they just started running the ball, and it was like, well, this is odd. I thought the bad run defense was supposed to be kept in last year. And then all of a sudden, Khalil Herbert started running all over the place. But again, they only gave up 10 points. And we said this in week 1. They only gave up 23 points. If that was a bad showing and they busted coverage and they had no – let's be real. Now that we've seen 3 games, that first game, their game plan was absolute garbage. It's just – I'm going to throw that game out because they clearly were not prepared. Everyone was rusty. And even in the Chicago game, they could have played so much better. They missed tackles. Campbell was missing tackles. Amos was missing tackles. And then I guess we can move on to the Tampa game here. And Alec, I saw you shaking your head. I don't know if you were.
What I'm not going to let you do is I'm not going to let you slander my boy President Devondre Campbell.
You're right. My fault.
Won't happen. That man deserves to have a statue right next to the Lombardi statue right out front at Lambeau there. I love Devondre Campbell, man. He's one of my favorite Packers. I'm about this close to getting his jersey in that yellow and gold that you got behind you there. I'm about to get that.
Shoulder.
Yeah, that shoulder, yeah.
It's not really breaking news, but they did come out and announce today that they are wearing these jerseys. I believe it is against the Jets. So 3 games from now. What is that? October 16th, they're going to bust those jerseys out again. So I'm looking forward to those. Those are really cool jerseys. I wish they wore them more. But anyway, my voice is starting to go, boys. This is why doubleheader. I can already feel it. So game 3 against Tampa, I guess we can kind of weave into that because the Bears game, look, for as dominant as they were, kind of a boring game. And the Bears, look, they threw it 11 times. So say what you will. I don't know that you could learn a lot about this team from that game other than, the defense has some juice. Jair, I mean, he pulled his groin this past Sunday, but he had a nice play. He baited Fields and got a pick to end the game. That was cool. But really the Tampa game, other than it's the latest and greatest and what just happened, I think we learned a lot more from this team about this team in this game. The offense, I think they miss Christian Watson. Whatever you think of Christian Watson at this point, and we don't really know a lot about Christian Watson at this point. Didn't play preseason. Obviously, week 1 had the big drop. And then the Bears game, pretty much a non-factor. And then this past week, didn't play. So we don't really know a lot. But I do think he has value to this team because they at least have somebody who threatens to stretch the field. When you only have Dobbs, Cobbs, Lazard, and Tunyon, and your backs, like you saw it in the second half. Tampa's like, these guys aren't going deep. Just play everyone up. And then Tampa shut the offense down. It looked pretty simple. But the defense came to play. Quay Walker, we didn't say this enough in the Bears game, and he was great in week 1. And I want to apologize publicly. I don't have any music to play underneath, a somber music. I hated the pick when they picked it. I apologize because this kid looks legit. He's fast. He's all over the field. Quay Walker actually gets my game ball for this game. I know we don't really have a segment for that, but I'm going to give a game ball to Quay Walker because he was outstanding, forcing fumbles. Just all over the field. I think if he continues to trend up, which he is, Campbell and Amos play like they did. Even Savage, I thought, had a good game. He did have the hold at the end of the game that gave Tampa the 1st and goal, but I thought Savage played awesome. If those 3 guys and the pressure was decent, I mean, especially with these next 3 games, they got New England with Brian Hoyer, most likely. Then they're in London against Danny Dimes, and then they got Zach Wilson at home with the Jets. Like, they're definitely winning their next 3 games if the defense plays like that. Actually, 4, because then they're in Washington. So they got an easy path to 4 straight wins here if they want it, if they play like they did.
Hey, what did you guys think about that Nixon that came in after Alexander got hurt? I
I
thought
didn't
that
even mention him.
Nixon played absolutely lights out. I mean,
Yes.
for number 4, he looked like he could have been a legitimate starter. He really did. And I completely agree with you. I think that Quay Walker is one of the best young players. I think he's probably one of the best in this last draft class as far as pure talent goes.
Yeah.
I think he is as talented as anybody at his position that went in this last year's draft. So I appreciate the apology. I am a Quay Walker truther, and I've been running this narrative for God knows how long. I like to hop on trains. Dusty, what do you think about this Nixon guy? What do you think of it? What are you laughing about over
What's
there?
going on over there? Are you okay, sir?
Nothing. It's just I'm just gonna drop it. We're gonna keep on rolling. We're gonna keep on rolling. I'm
We
not
are
gonna say anything.
Okay.
But yes, I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm gonna get in trouble if I say anything. But
I must have missed it because I don't know what you're giggling about. So
I'll tell you after. Okay.
Okay, great.
Anyways,
Your
Quay
Nixon
Walker,
coverage.
Quay Walker and Nixon played phenomenal last game. They played fantastic. Again, I know I said in our gambling show last week, Al, I said the Packers are going to show up and prove they're an elite defense against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they did exactly that.
You did that.
They showed everything to be an elite defense by filling holes in the run game, playing great coverage overall. There was a couple lapses here and there, but overall, I mean, it was a great game. I mean, when you only give up 12 points to the best quarterback of all time, that's a great game. Like, you cannot be mad about that at all. Leave with a win. I mean, they played phenomenal. But the only problem I had with the last game was just the offense, just kind of like their creativity after halftime. It just seems like it kind of stopped. They kind of stalled. Because in the first half, they were throwing in motions and kind of getting Jones out wide and trying to get numbers. And second half, they just kind of kept running the same thing, and it kind of got predictable. Because you kept seeing that same RPO play where they sent Jones in motion off the side, kind of like it was going to be a screen, which it's an RPO. So he's looking at the linebackers and seeing what they're doing. If they flow to Jones, he gives the ball. If they flow to the run, he throws Aaron Jones quick. They just kept running that same play, and that's what I didn't like. It's grit some creativity, throw some different motions in there, do something else.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think there's 2 reasons behind that, really. And number 1 is Matt LaFleur. I feel like he hasn't shown that he can adjust, right? He when he comes out and he has a great game plan, we always light him up in the first half, and then in the second half, after the defense makes adjustments, it seems like we kind of tamper out. Or he comes in with a not so great game plan and Rodgers somehow makes up for it, or Jones somehow makes up for it. So that's number 1. Number 2, I feel like this is something that's developing into a problem, and that is that Aaron Rodgers does not seem to trust people that are not proven, right? He gives the ball to 4 people in my eyes right now. That is Randall Cobb, Robert Tonyan, A.J. Dillon, and Aaron Jones. This last game, he got it out to Romeo Doubs more. That's great. I hope we continue to see that. But it feels like anybody else who is on the field, I mean, they just don't even get looks.
Yep.
We see a lot of replays now where people are running wide open across the middle. People are wide open on their out routes. And Rodgers isn't delivering them the ball. Why? I'm not sure. It might be a mental block. He might be worried about, having inconsistencies out there. However, how are these players going to get better if they aren't being tested? How is this scheme going to work if you aren't going through your reads? I mean, he is Aaron freaking Rodgers, so I assume that he's going to figure it out, and we're probably going to win, 12 plus games just because of that alone. But are we missing out on a lot of potential with him not going through those reads?
I would like to play a fun game with you guys called Guess Who. Guess who through 3 games leads the Packers in targets?
I'm going to go Aaron Jones.
Not Aaron Jones.
Romeo Doubs.
You are correct, sir. So look, Alec, I was just as shocked as you to learn that, and I was shocked that he went to him 8 times in that in the Tampa game. And you want to know something crazy? Statistically, through people that track this stuff, Romeo Doubs is a top 10 receiver in separation rate, which is insane to me. So him not trusting his young receivers, at least when you're watching eye test, it sure as hell feels that way. And you know, Cobb's had a little juice left. I was a little surprised. He's had a couple big plays here in the first couple games.
Yeah.
Lazard, other than puking after scoring a touchdown, looked pretty decent in his return.
Nobody really about that, by the way.
It was so damn hot. And what's crazy, and I mean, we can talk about the other games from this past week if you guys want to after we do all this stuff. But even like the Miami Buffalo game, those guys were dying. Stephon Diggs said he had an interview the other day. I was listening to the Levitard show, and he said he had 2 IVs in him because he was that dehydrated. Which I don't know if that's exaggeration or real, but regardless, I think that's the kind of temperatures that were going on in Florida, and now they got the hurricane and they got all that stuff going on too. But so Rodgers not trusting his young receivers, it feels like it. But the stats say, and even Christian Watson not playing this past game is still like number 2 or number 3 in targets. So at least he's trying. But the eye test to me tells something's still off. I was listening to Lockdown Packers, which I did a decent job covering this game, so props to them. Obviously, I think we're awesome, but it's a solid number 2. But anyway, he had a guy on talking about the 2-back sets where they have Jones and Dillon on the field at the same time. And yards-wise, they're only getting 5-6 yards per play when those two are on the field together, which I don't think is something either one of us or any of us had thought that would be an issue because they're 2 of your best players. You got to have them on the field. So I do think that there's definitely stuff to work on here. And one thing we haven't touched on yet, they played aggressive the entire game. Dustin, you and I watched this game together. We both sat and just complained like crazy at the end of this game. Defensively, they played aggressive the entire game. And then they played prevent. And they basically just said to Tom Brady, okay, just dink and dunk your way down the field. We'll let you play at the 10, and then we'll go from there. They had Russell Gage and I guess Cole Beasley and I guess Scotty Miller. They had no one to throw to, and they were just like, okay, go your 5 yards. They're not going behind you. And defensively, this got to clean up. Never again. Please, we never need to do this again because what you were doing was working. That's the part I don't understand. And you were talking about adjustments earlier. I 100% agree. I don't think it's adjustment game to game because even defensively, I think you've seen some stuff. Offensively, you've kind of seen some stuff. But in-game adjustments, I haven't seen many great ones. And maybe I just don't know enough about football to be like, oh, there's a change. But eye test and sniff test wise, they don't make in-game adjustments as of now, or at least impactful ones.
Especially, I mean, the offense, yes, they don't make any adjustments, but I don't understand the defense not making adjustments. Like, I hate to go back to week 1 because it was an absolute bloodbath, but when you are constantly being burned in zone defense and and you're playing elite wide receivers who know how to sit in the gaps of zones and how to run through zones and find the holes. I mean, how are you not adjusting and putting your number 1 on their number 1, your number 2 on their number 2? I mean, I could strongly argue that we have the best 1 through 4 corners in the league as far as like talent combined throughout those 4. I've never seen a secondary that has 4 legitimate starters on it besides maybe the Legion of Boom. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Dusty?
Yeah, no, I'm right with you on that one. I just thought, it's just creativity between the offense and defense. I guess that's the biggest thing they need to work on. Just making those halftime adjustments, just kind of seeing what they're doing and realize that they're gonna make adjustments towards you. Like, because near the half, you can kind of tell Tampa Bay was starting to make those adjustments towards Green Bay. It's like, okay, what's your answer gonna be? Like, what are you gonna go to halftime talking about? Like, you got to have an answer. And I guess that's my biggest question is when are they going to have an answer at halftime?
Yeah. Look, it's only game 3, and Tampa defensively is tough. But, I mean, the first half, if Jones doesn't fumble at the goal line, they're up 21-0, and we're not even having a conversation about why was it a close game. It shouldn't have been a close game. They dominated the entire game. And I think that would be the encouraging thing. Even with the offense kind of sputtering in the second half and not really forcing the issue downfield except for the one play to the Lazard late, they did dominate this game. I know that they had a chance to tie it and go to overtime. The game should never got that. The Packers dominated this game. I guess offensively, they're kind of a mess. But defensively, that Tampa team is really good. So I can't fault them for only scoring 14 points. But if I would have told you last week, hey, Packers are only going to score 14 points in Tampa, both of you are like, oh, so they lost. They got to win a tough road win in Tampa with extreme heat conditions. Yeah, it was only 14-12, but really this game wasn't that close. So if you want to spin it any positive way, that would be the one I would say, well, was it actually 14-12? It was probably more like 21-12. They definitely left some points out there. And let's not forget, I just want to give this a shout out because they were so damn bad last year. Special teams was awesome on Sunday.
Yeah.
Amari Rodgers had a big return, and it was the guy threw, I don't even remember who it was.
The phantom kicker, yeah.
Yeah, he threw him into the punter. Oh, ran into the kicker. Well, that negates a 40-yard. I mean, that's a 40-yard swing. And now all of a sudden, you were already in field goal range. Well, now you're taken out of field goal range, and you're back about 30 yards. So there were just a lot of things. And I don't want to blame the refs, guy, especially because we won. But there were some things that just this game wasn't close. Don't let the box score fool you.
A lot of missed balls. You guys see any of those? I mean,
There was a lot this week.
4 or 5 missed like blatant holding calls.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought the officiating wasn't great. And again, I don't want to be blame the refs, guy, because both teams got screwed on a couple things. And obviously, as Packer fans, we consume Packer content, so we see all the Packer misses. But I'm sure that Tampa didn't get some calls there too, because the officiating was subpar in that game. And whatever. We got to win, and that's all really I care about at this point. All right. So that'll do it for our game rewind. I think we've gotten pretty much all of that off the table. I do kind of want to do some top 5 lists with you guys because we haven't done top 5 lists in a while. And let me tell you, that's some of the best content we've created here. I don't really help me out. Top 5. Would you do top 5 most impressive young QBs? Would you rather do that list? I'll give you to the option. Or top 5 surprises so far.
Let's go surprises.
Yeah, that's going to be easier. All right, cool. Who wants to start? Top 5 list. I'll get the sounders ready. Alec, lead us off. What do you have?
Where's the sounders?
We're ready. All right. So after everything, you could just keep going, but I'm going to play it. Unless I disagree with you, which I won't because it's your list. But I just wanted to play that sound effect. I haven't played a lot of. We got new sound effects on our board here that I have not played here. If you listen to the Lockdown Gambling Show, I play a lot of them. But anyway, enough of me meandering.
I wish that I had access to your soundboard because what I would do is I would quit my job. I would quit my job and I would put myself into serious debt to follow around Dustin. And every time that he makes a joke, just play that all throughout the day. You just have me in the background.
That would be wonderful. All right. So top 5 surprises. Number 5, we will go 5-1 for all of our lists. Number 5, Alec.
I'm going to go number 5, that Lamar Jackson has not signed an extension yet. What are the Ravens waiting for? I mean, this is one of the most talented players in the league, and you're just not going to extend him. Guess what, buddy? Today's price ain't tomorrow's price, and they're going to end up losing a lot more money over this. I'm telling you that right now.
He's the MVP right now.
He is. I think so. He has the most touchdowns out of any single player in the league, I think.
And I saw a stat today. His 12 total touchdowns are more than, I think, everyone in the league. Like every team in the league. He's my MVP at this point.
Yeah. Brings me to number 4. The Detroit Lions' success. God, they look like a legitimate team. I've always wanted to believe in Dan Campbell just because he's a hilarious character. I mean, this dude is like a character. Yeah, he's the dog, man. He is like a caricature of Detroit. I love Dan Campbell. I'm glad that the Lions are succeeding. I hope that they lose twice this year to the Packers, of course. But that's my number 4.
Let's be real. Just to stay on the Lions for a second, I'm sweating those games out. Like, those aren't going to be fun games.
They looked good against the Vikings, man. I thought they were going to pull it off.
They should have.
Yeah.
They really should have.
Number 3, the Vegas Raiders looking borderline terrible. Listen, guys, they have so much talent on their roster. Derek Carr, while I know he isn't an elite quarterback or a Hall of Fame quarterback, sorry, I hate to throw shots, but shots need to be thrown. He is a good quarterback. Devontae Adams, one of the best in the league. Josh Jacobs, I thought was going to have a big back year. Their defense has talent. I mean, you would think that they would be successful. I'm not really sure what's holding them back.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. They have more than enough talent. Is it the coaching? It could be McDaniels. He wasn't successful on his own the first time. It doesn't seem he's successful on his own the second time. Just a thought.
Number 2. How terrible the Denver Broncos are. You've got one of the best offensive coordinators in the recent years as your head coach. I mean, I thought that he was going to be a stud going into Denver. You've got Robinson coming in, and I mean, they signed him to an extension before the season even began. I thought that would have shown that he was having some successes in the early days. They've got Judy, they've got Sutton, they've got Melvin Gordon, who's not a superstar anymore, but is good. And that defense is still tough. I can't understand how they're so mediocre. And yeah. And my number 1 for this year.
Wait for it.
It's the most. Oh man, I chose this category just for this pick, and I can't.
Don't tell me you forgot it.
I did forget it.
Problematic.
Oh no!
Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh, the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, there we go.
Dude, Miami might be the best team in the league. Who would have thought that? Week 3 that Miami would have been the best team in the league. Tua looking really pretty good, man. He's got Jalen Waddle, who is a dog. He's got Tyreek Hill, who is an absolute menace out there. And I don't know, their team just looks as solid as anybody out there.
I'm right there with you. And actually, I do have the Dolphins on my list. I was quick writing down my top 5, so I didn't forget. But yeah, no, and if you want to have the Dolphins conversation now, absolutely. You're absolutely right. They got weapons galore. That defense is legit. And, I mean, this is going to sound dumb, but it's true. They have weather on their side because, again, the Bills were in the blazing sun getting cooked like rotisserie chickens for 3 hours, and they had nothing at the end. When's the last time you saw a quarterback with that strength, the arm strength of Josh Allen, just throwing into the dirt when he had a wide open touchdown to win the game? Like, they were gassed. They had nothing left. So they also have weather on their side. But they had that huge comeback against Baltimore. Then they got one out against the Bills. Now they and gambling show, we talked about this. I don't think they're going to win tomorrow. I think that's just a really tough spot for them to be in, to go to Cincinnati. But still, the fact that they're 3-0 when their schedule was so tough, they could easily, just based on the names on the schedule alone, be 1-2 right now. And I don't think anyone would be surprised. Or even 0-3. But they have come up, taken care of business. And so, yes, the Dolphins were 3 on my list. Spoiler alert. Dustin, what say you? Actually, no, it's time. It's your turn. You can either comment on the Dolphins or give us your top 5.
You want me to give you my top 5?
Top 5. Let's go, buddy.
Sure. And yes, the Dolphins, I think, are going to probably make my list as well. This is actually a tough list because I can go a lot of ways with this right now. I can go a lot of ways, but we'll start off at number 5. We're going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, do they stink. I mean, they pulled out a lucky win against Kansas City. Let's all calm down. Everyone in Indianapolis, let's calm down. They still suck. I promise you, they're not good. They are not good. If it wasn't for a ridiculous personal foul on 4th down, they would have never won that game. That was the most BS personal foul call. I mean, and I'm guilty of it. Of a couple weeks ago. We're not going to go into detail. But,
problematic.
we're not going to go into detail, but it was dumb. Like, it was literally like 2 guys having interaction. They were both walking away, and the ref's like just throws it for no reason. Like, there was clearly nothing malicious said. Like, both guys are calm and they're walking away. Like, 15-yard automatic first down, and they win the game because of it. Like, just a bad call. Okay, and moving on, number 4. It's gonna get tough now. I'm gonna say Broncos. I'm gonna say the Broncos. I think Alec kind of hit on all subjects on that one. I think everyone thought they're gonna be good, and they're just not. Like, they just can't put it together. Like, on both sides of the ball, really, they're just not. Like, their defense is obviously better than their offense right now, but there's like even their defense isn't kind of as good as what people thought they were gonna be. They're just not a great football team right now. I
will give my list after you, and I don't want to cut you off, even though I just did. There's one specific element for the Broncos that we have not touched on yet. That's my number 4. Okay, let's just get into this. So my number 5, Colts. We'll just alternate back and forth because I think you and I are going to have very similar lists.
Probably.
Yeah. So Colts sucking, I guess. They're pretty banged up, but you tie against Houston. You probably should have won that game. You pull one out of your butts against Kansas City. Kansas City should have won by 3 touchdowns. The team's not very good. And that's all I have to say on that. They're not very good. They don't use Jonathan Taylor the way they did last year, which is super weird. He's just not effective. Michael Pittman, when healthy, has been awesome, but they're propping up the corpse of Matt Ryan at this point, and it's just sad to kind of watch. My number 4, Nathaniel Hackett. His name sounds like a Civil War general, but he is a terrible head football. And look, I get it. He's around Aaron Rodgers. All the people that are around Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur were taken away from the team this year. I get that, and I understand why. You always want the hot new thing. This dude, through 3 weeks, literally, and I'm not kidding, this is a real thing that happened, hired a consultant to help him with game management decisions. When is the last time you heard a coach, head football coach? Now, props to him. He came out, he said it, he's getting help. That's crazy, but good for him because he realized, I have a problem here. And he's fixing it. Good for you, Nathaniel Hackett. That whole thing is bizarre to me. But anyway, so yeah, Nathaniel Hackett. We don't have to bang on the Broncos anymore, but holy man, that's rough.
I think the part of the problem is with Hackett is that he decided to be a Nathaniel instead of being a Nate or a Nathan. Well, why drag it out, man? What's up with this Nathaniel nonsense? Be a Nate, be a Nathan, be a normal human being. How about that? All right, Dusty, continue.
So, Dustin, you're number 3 as we alternate back.
Just goes to personally attack Hackett.
For his name, that sounds like a Civil War general. Yep.
All right, number 3, I'm going to go with Miami Dolphins.
I also had the Miami Dolphins at 3.
I'm guessing we got the exact same list. I think we have.
I'm hoping you don't have 2, and 1 you might have, but 2 there's no way you have. I would guarantee it. But anyway, your take on the Dolphins?
Maybe, you never know. But yeah, Dolphins. I mean, I'm not going to put them at 1 because we're only at week 3. Like, they're having a good season. They kind of to me, they got some lucky wins where they probably shouldn't have pulled it out, whatever. But they're winning football games at the end of the day, so it's a little surprising to see them start 3-0 against 3 really good teams. So that's my number 3.
Yep, same here. We already kind of touched weapons galore. They won 2 really tough games, both of which you could argue they shouldn't have won. So maybe it's luck, maybe it's talent, but we kind of expected this team to be better than they were last year, especially when you bring in a guy like Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle was there last year, and I mean, right away was impactful. So, yeah, and obviously Xavier Howard on defense is a legit number one corner. Dare I say, a lockdown corner?
He said it.
So, look, they got talent up and down the board. Mike McDaniel has shown that he's very creative. I mean, he's from the Shanahan tree, so he's got definitely knows how to run the ball. And the running game actually hasn't even been that impressive. It's been the passing game. So Tua seems to be taking a step forward, not a giant one, but he's definitely serviceable. Here's a random question for you guys. Would you rather have Jimmy Garoppolo or Tua Tagovailoa right now?
Tua. Won't even.
I'd take Tua.
It's a toss-up. I'd
That's
give
why
the
I
edge to Tua.
I think it's closer than we think, but I'd still go with Tua.
It is pretty close because, like, let's be honest, like Tua has improved, but he has a lot of good receivers and talent around him. He has a lot of talent around him. Garoppolo has talent, but not nearly what he has. I think they're similar players, but I'll give Tua the edge. I think he's played better so far.
Alec, you got a weird look on your face. Explain yourself, sir.
He doesn't have as much talent around him. Garoppolo has maybe the most talented receiver in the league, Deebo Samuel. He's got George Kittle, who might be the best tight end in the league. Yeah, I mean, he's got Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk's one of the best young receivers in the league. I would take Ayuk and Samuel over Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Oh, get out of here.
Oh,
For sure, dude.
Yeah.
For
Are you doing bit right now? You can't be serious.
I don't do bits.
Lone Wolf, there's no shot you believe that.
Dude, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
the salesman telling us he doesn't do bits.
Yeah.
Whatever. Get out of town.
This has got to be a bit.
Okay. Yeah, no, Deebo Samuel is one of the best receivers in the league for the past, 2 years, man. He's a great gadget player. He can
Tyreek Hill. So, okay, let's cancel those two out. Who would you rather have then, Ayuk or Waddle?
All right, I think that it's close. I would slightly take Waddle, but I think that Deebo Samuel has so much more talent than Tyreek Hill that it makes up for the gap between Waddle and Brandon Ayuk. I do.
Wow, bro.
Knock on Tyreek Hill. I really like Tyreek Hill. I really do, but I think that his speed makes up for a lack of precise route running, and I think that he is a limited player in that he can only play wide receiver, whereas Deebo Samuel is also a lead in the backfield.
Fair enough, but that's not a fair thing to say because no one can do what Deebo Samuel does at that size and that speed.
Exactly. So he's more talented, yes?
Maybe just
nobody can do what he can do, AJ, bro.
More talented is that's a tough one. I just think he's bigger. That's nothing. That's not talent related. That's just God related. Like you can't do anything about Tyreek Hill. Can't do anything about being 5'10" or whatever he is. And Deebo looks like he was chiseled out of marble and should be on Mount Olympus.
So he's he's better than God-given plus talent equals better than Tyreek Hill, I guess.
I guess I backed myself into a corner, even though I still don't believe it. Anywho, all right. So Dustin and I gave her number 3. So Dustin, you're number 2.
I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, just how do they stink for what they have? Like, how are they terrible? That's just my only question. Like, it's just like what Alex said, you supposedly have a Hall of Fame quarterback, or you went to a new Hall of Fame quarterback who is 0-3 on the season. So you have the best wide receiver. Granted, let's be honest, besides Devontae Adams, they have no freaking receivers whatsoever. They have that Mac Hollins when he went off for a crazy 160 yards. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, where did he come from? Did they go to the corner in Las Vegas? Like, hey, can you play football?
He was playing the slots.
He was sitting there slotting down. They're like, hey, heard you played football in high school.
He was sitting at the Bellagio playing the slots. Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding.
Dusty, Hunter Renfrow, is he playing?
No, I think he was hurt last game.
He was hurt last week, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they do have Renfrow, but still, it's just like their defense was supposed to be all this and like all doing these great things, and their defense just isn't good. Like they just can't put it together as a team. Like, granted, I think Josh McDaniels kind of sucks, honestly, as a head coach. I just don't think he's a good head coach. He's a good offense coordinator, just not a good head coach.
Agreed. That was going to be my rebuttal, and that's really all I have here. Talent-wise, they should be fine. Now, they could have beaten the Chargers week 1. Okay. They could have won this past week. They played like garbage to start, but, I mean, they were in that game at the end. So it's a tough 0-3, but I can't remember what coach said it. You are what your record says you are, and they're an 0-3 team, and I honestly believe it's Josh McDaniels. Apparently, Josh McDaniels has already had a closed-door meeting with the owner, Mark Davis, so that's never a good sign. But anyway, so my number 2, I'm excited to talk about this one. My number 2, the Atlanta Falcons are fun. Look, they might not be great. They're not world beaters by any means. How about Marcus Mariota? It's kind of fun to watch it. It's like, oh, hey, I remember you. It's like, I think he's better now than he was in Tennessee. Now, granted, that was years ago. But it's like, oh, okay, Cordero Patterson, we thought maybe just flash in the pan. He's been awesome. Kyle Pitts hasn't even been really used yet, but that's a great weapon to have. Drake London's been really fun. He's hit the ground running as a rookie. He's been awesome. Atlanta's pretty fun. I would not want to bet on them ever with my own hard-earned money, but let me tell you, if they're on the TV, I'm not mad. They were on Red Zone a couple times. I kind of like this Atlanta team. I don't think they're going anywhere, but they're definitely fun.
Yeah, I was thinking about putting them on my list. I was thinking about it. I'm like, Atlanta's pretty fun. What are they 1-2 right now? They're 1-2, right?
Let me double check that while you are analyzing the Falcons.
I don't think they're on. I swore they won a game, but yeah, they're a fun team. I mean, they're sticking in every game. Their offense is flashy, fun. They got everything really that they needed as an offense. They got Patterson. They got the Algier, the rookie, who I think he's got a lot of promise. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Mariota. Like, they got everything you need. They got a decent offensive line. It's not like spectacular, but it's not bad. It's kind of mid-level. But yeah, they're a fun team to watch.
So, update on the Falcons record. So, week 1, they had that close game against New Orleans. They were leading the whole game, and then New Orleans won with a late field goal. Then week 2, they were facing the Rams. They were down by a bunch and came storming all the way back, so they had a chance to win that game late. I think Mariota threw a jump ball in the end zone, and it was picked by Ramsey, and that was all she wrote there. But they were in that game to the end. And then this past week, they were in Seattle and won 27-23. So they're at least in every game. It's just a fun squad. Sometimes there's a team every year that we watch, and we're just like, oh, they're not very good. But then you watch, and you're like, oh, it's kind of a fun squad. It's kind of – I'm trying to think in basketball. I would compare them to, like, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, last year, they were pretty decent. They were a 5 seed before everyone got hurt and then it fell apart. But it's just, you watch these teams and you're like, oh, they're not going to be very good. It's the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's the Atlanta Falcons. All of a sudden you're like, oh, they got some dudes. Darius Garland, Marcus Mariota. Like, okay, we got some dudes here. All right, Dustin, your number 1 surprise of the 2020 NFL season so far.
I got a feeling we got the same number 1 as well. I got a feeling we do. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
No, I actually forgot about them. I was going to put them on my list, but honestly, I thought you two were going to have the Jags, so I'm glad we're having this conversation now because that is not my number 1.
Yeah, I mean, how are they a good football team? Like, by no means should this team be good. Like, their number 1 receiver is Christian Kirk. How are they a good football team with Christian Kirk? But he has been like, I was watching the Pat McAfee show, I think it was 2 days ago, and they said it. They're like, he's balling right now. Like, he is like the entire offense for them. Obviously, like, James Robinson and Etienne Jr. are very good as well. But Kirk, when they need a big play, Kirk is there. Like, he's making play after play after play. And their defense is really good. Like, their defense is really good. Like, I think Doug Peterson is the real deal, and I think Philadelphia firing him was a mistake, like a big mistake.
Can we just – Jacksonville being good says one thing to me. The Urban Meyer experience had to have been hell on earth. That's the only explanation because it's the same parts plus Christian Kirk and Trayvon Walker, and I guess they got ETN back. But would that have made a giant difference? Urban Meyer has to be the worst coach in NFL history. And fun fact, he's tied for 3rd on the Jags all-time head coaching wins list, and he had 3. Fun fact for you. And he got fired in his first season. He didn't even make it the full season.
Great success.
Great success. Alec, have any opinions on the Jags?
Man, the Jaguars are one of those teams. It reminds me a little bit of the Atlanta Falcons in that they're fun, but I can't bet on them. I have James Robinson sitting on my bench in our dynasty league. By the way, I'm 3-0, and I just cannot bring myself to start him to ruin my perfect record. And you know, I I just wish that I could trust them a little bit more. But you're right; they are a lot better than I expected. I thought that Trevor Lawrence was a bust. I really did. But
Again, Urban Meyer's fault.
yeah, it is Urban Meyer's fault. Not on me.
No, not you. Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah. All right. And finally, to wrap up the show, basically, my number one surprise. Jalen Hurts, MVP. We all kind of thought the Eagles would be all right. Okay, fine. And I already said Lamar's my MVP. But golly, Jalen Hurts. This guy can't throw. He's only a runner. How good are the Eagles actually going to be when they got a running quarterback? And he's not the most accurate, but they got all these weapons, blah, 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 blah. This dude has been balling. He has been, at least fantasy-wise, numbers-wise, one of the top two quarterbacks. Lamar's probably first. But top two quarterback. Who would have said that about Jalen Hurts? We were all kind of like, he's a good fantasy quarterback, but not real life. No, he's a legit real-life quarterback now. And if he continues this, and who knows, it's first 3 games, small sample size. If he continues this through the rest of the year, holy man, did Green Bay's road to the Super Bowl get a lot more difficult. As Philly's got a good defense, and Jalen Hurts is a legit, at this point in time, I don't think he's a front runner by any means, but a legitimate MVP candidate.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on Philly yet. I'm not 100% sold. To me, they haven't quite faced the adversity I'd like to see yet for me to kind of fully buy in. And I think you're honest. I think Jalen Hurts is the real deal. I think he has improved a lot just with his throwing motion. I know someone showed a throwing motion from him last year to this year, and it's just like the pattern and shape. It's completely different. It's much closer to his body, much more efficient, effective, quicker. I mean, that alone can set a quarterback out from, mid tier to above average. They can really set a quarterback apart. So we'll see what happens. I think, these next couple weeks will be a good test for him, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Jalen is one of the hardest workers at his position in the league. I mean, I remember when he was in college, the workout videos that he used to put out, I mean, he is an absolute madman. He loves to put in that work. I think that he's going to continue to get better and better. However, it is the Eagles. So I think that at some point they will fall apart. But it will not be Jalen Hurts' doing. I think that he's going to do the best that he can with a scrappy bunch until they inevitably fall apart.
Well, so Dustin mentioned that they hadn't played anyone great yet. So week 1, they're in Detroit. That ended up being a tougher game than they thought, but I mean, they were dominating that whole game, and all of a sudden the Lions came roaring back, no pun intended. Actually, nah, I got to hit myself with it.
He said it.
Roaring back. That's, meow. So yeah, the Motor City Kitties come all the way back. Then they play Primetime Kirk, and we all know Primetime Kirk Cousins is terrible. So, I mean, that game was over at halftime. And then they destroyed I shouldn't even say destroyed. That game was actually a lot closer than I thought. So they only won 24-8. That game fell out of hand by halftime. So they must have just let up off the gas against Washington. But this week they got Jacksonville. So that actually is a test for them now. Then they go to Arizona. They got Dallas at home. So their next 3, they got some. I mean, Arizona's nothing special. I could have put them on my list of surprises too, just that they're not even competitive in a lot of these games. They look kind of lost. Everything's dysfunctional. They're on my outside looking in, I guess. But no, this Philly team are pretty good, but I think they'll go as far as Jalen Hurts can go. If he has a second half collapse, which I don't think is totally out of the picture. I mean, how many young quarterbacks have we seen? They come out gangbusters and we're like, oh my God, look at this guy. And then it kind of falls off at the end. It's about consistency, but he's been really consistent so far. So that would be my number 1. Anything else before we wrap up the show here tonight, gentlemen? I'm seeing shaking heads. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Lockdown Corner podcast. If you like what you see here, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. All you got to do is search the Lockdown Corner Podcast. You'll see our logo. Hit that subscribe button. We're finally up over 100. We're at 101 as of this afternoon. So that's exciting for us. I mean, I know it's only 101 subscribers, but for us little dinky startup here and not really having a bunch of word of mouth, it's a pretty big deal. So thank you to those that have subscribed. If you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? You're getting great stuff like this. Our top 5 list. Come on, that's the best content we push out. And also, if you're on YouTube, you can see the Lockdown Gambling Show, which we just did, and wrap that up. Got some good stuff this week as well. Dustin had his lock of the week is for the second week in a row. The Green Bay Packers 9.5-point favorites at home. Is he right? He's 1-1 so far in his locks. Side note, my father is on the show. We call him the parlay kid because all he does is bet parlays, and they're giant, and they never hit because it's like 8 teams, and it's just crazy. He bet on Michigan last week plus like 18 against Maryland. I love the man to death, don't get me wrong, but his gambling habits are not great. He's 0-3 in locks. So he also took the Packers 9.5. So we'll see. I don't feel great about the game now. Anyway, you'll find all that content on the Lockdown Gambling Show. What am I forgetting? Oh, yeah. Facebook. We also stream there, so make sure you check that out. Alex got the Twitter handle. We talked about that in the beginning of the show. At Corner Lockdown, Alex got the Twitter account all locked up, and he's been doing a great job with that. Instagram, at Lockdown Corner Pod. You can find us there as well. I think that's everything. I think that we're on all the socials. Just find our logo, hit the follow button if you don't already. And that's it. That's going to do it for the show. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week. We will recap the old New England game. And then we go to London next Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. So that ought to be fun. And who knows? We'll probably do a show during the week, but maybe a little morning live tweeting or live Facebooking, which messaging, I don't know. Do the kids call it live Facebooking? Probably not. Any Hoosiers for the 8th time. That's it for us. So long, everybody. Thanks for watching.